Welcome back to Showcase, the show where I walk you through the lore, writing process, and animation models used in my Transformers AU, Siege World. Last week we looked at the Armada Autobots and saw their side of the conflict over Micro. But when you only have half of a story, you can't really be sure what's true. So let's jump back and have a look at the Decepticons' perspective. Megatron's life was strange from the start. He was constructed cold, but rather than being placed in a generic body, he was placed in an extremely powerful prototype. He and his two brothers, bots who shared this same body type, were all failures in some way, leading to future development of this prototype frame being scrapped. Out of the three, Megatron was the most stable. He wasn't as strong as Galvatron or as smart as Megazorak, but in the long run, that was a good thing. Galvatron was a failure because of his rage, often ignoring orders to focus on tearing his enemies in two. Megazorak was a failure because of his disloyalty, preferring a scheme behind High Command's back. But Megatron had no major failures. He just didn't meet expectations. He outmatched most Decepticons. To be honest, he was more comparable to bots of legend like Megatron. That's where he got his name. He was a great strategist and could outmatch most bots in the fight. But with the amount of resources sunk into his frame, he just wasn't worth it. High Command wanted a Phase 6er, and they got an above-average bot for their troubles. In an attempt to recoup their losses, High Command shipped Megatron off to a short-lived cross-faction training facility located on a border world between Autobot and Decepticon territory. It was in this facility that Megatron would meet Optimus. And despite both their initial prejudices, they eventually became good friends. They were both the best in their own faction, and often surpassed each other, even though Optimus claimed not to care about the rankings. When tensions between the factions inevitably rose again, Megatron and Optimus returned to their respective groups. And despite Optimus claiming he'd contact Megatron, he never did. From there, Megatron finished almost every specialized training in the Decepticon faction, and proved himself to his commanders. Eventually, he was given his first major assignment. Megatron was given command of the Decepticons' exploration fleet seeking out lost Cybertronian colonies. In this role, he successfully turned several planets to the Decepticons, even establishing new colonies as his army crossed the universe. He had a good-sized army under his command, but one group really stood out, his Special Forces unit. Led by Starscream, an honourable bot hailing from the Decepticons' capital world of Thro. He was a major asset to Megatron, and was expected to be promoted to Megatron's second in command in the near future. Demolisher, the heavy of the group. Demolisher was made for war, literally. He didn't have hands, instead having 5 articulated machine guns on each arm, which could be used as hands with very little dexterity, but he didn't mind. Demolisher only wanted battle. There was Cyclonus, Demolisher's best friend, so close they even became Amica and Dura. He was the group's resident crazy thrill seeker. At first glance, he wouldn't work well in a Special Forces team, but despite his seemingly reckless tactics, they always just seemed to have a way of working out, which Cyclonus would often claim was intentional. There was Thrust, Starscream's second in command. Unlike the others, he was far from loyal. He'd do anything to move up. On his first mission with the team, Starscream's original second in command mysteriously disappeared, leading to Thrust being moved up. Everyone keeps him at arm's length, but he still manages to dig up dirt on everyone. Finally, for the main group, there was Tidal Wave, the transport ship and super heavy of the group. Originally, he was a Titan, and a rather smart one at that, till on one mission he had his head blown off. He survived, but a majority of his brain module was destroyed. What was left was split into 3 in an attempt to salvage a small part of his intelligence. His body was separated and made into 3 separate bots, each with a part of Tidal Wave's brain. They could still combine into Tidal Wave, but overall he was reduced to a bumbling berserker that could barely manage to say his own name. When separated, this Dark Fleet was still a lot larger than the average bot. Due to them only having part of Tidal Wave's brain, they only had certain aspects of it. And unfortunately for the Decepticons, it seemed that all the useful parts of his brain were destroyed. Aircraft Carrier was a walking ball of anxiety and fear. He would prefer to hide in the back lines of a battle, but due to his large frame, he stood out. He wasn't weak by any means, he was larger and stronger than most bots, but at the slightest sign of danger, he'd be running away. Gunship, on the other hand, was a complete berserker. He was consumed by rage. He'd attack anyone outside of the Dark Fleet. The other two had to keep him on a very short leash, literally, or he'd try and rip anybody he saw apart. Finally, for the Dark Fleet, there was Transport. He was just greedy. While his alt mode was initially made for transporting bots around, he'd abandon his passengers as soon as possible and start raiding any building possible, filling himself with money, goods, even useless knickknacks. He didn't want them for his value, he really just wanted them. And that was the group for a long time, till the Autobots discovered the colony world of Micro. Micro was a strange planet. It was like a grandchild of a Cybertronian colony. Micro was created by a colony of Cybertron. We went over Micro last week, so if you'd like a more in-depth look at them, check out my Armada Autobots video. But for now, I'll just give you the gist of it. Micro was home to the Minicons, small but extremely powerful bots. At first, the Autobots tried to keep Micro secret, but Wheeljack, a low-ranking Autobot, fearing the Autobot Council's influence, leaked the planet's location to the Decepticons, and joined their ranks along with a small group of Minicons. Wheeljack was assigned to Starscream's squad after extensive tests and background checks to make sure he wasn't secretly a spy. From there, he helped his new group of Minicons find partners within the crew. Swindle joined up with Starscream, Blackout with Demolisher, and Demolisher also worked with Wreckage, Knockout, and Bonecrusher, a group of hardened Minicon soldiers. Crumplezone partnered with Cyclonus, Inferno with Frost, and Fletch, Broadside, and Scatter partnered with the Dark Fleet, while Ramjet partnered with Tidal Wave. Windshear partnered with Wheeljack, and finally, the leader of this group of Minicons, Leader 1, partnered with Megatron. With the power boost from these new Minicons, Megatron's fleet quickly rose to be one of the Decepticons' most powerful. And with the Decepticons' current leader losing favour, Megatron was able to swing a majority of the Decepticons to his side and take over the faction. One of his major promises was getting Micro under Decepticon control, and while he had some shady plans to try and take it by force, he didn't need to use them. The Minicon Council was bombed, and according to an eyewitness, they saw a yellow and purple bot with an Autobot symbol fleeing the building shortly before it blew up. This swung around half of the Minicons to the Decepticon side, but the planet still seemed like it would turn into another war. This was when Optimus reached out to Megatron. Since the Academy, he'd become the Autobots' new prime, and seemed to want to avoid the conflict. The meeting was behind closed doors, and it's not quite sure what they spoke about. But when they left, Micro's fate was sealed. There was going to be another war. The Decepticons' forces were much smaller than the Autobots. Sure, they had access to a lot of Genericons, but they were hardly effective. Luckily for them, Wheeljack knew of a brand new Autobot technology that could be used to supplement their army, power winxing. Originally used as a way to save a bot from death, cloning their brain module and placing it in a new body, the Decepticons instead used it on healthy bots, making clones of their most valuable soldiers. One Power Winx clone cost 100 times a Genericon, but some bots were just worth that price. All of Starscream's squad underwent the process, even Tidal Wave and the Dark Fleet. Some of these Power Winx clones survived long enough to create new identities with whole histories of their own, like Thundercracker, Buzzsaw, and Ramjet, while others died before they got the chance. These new forces were ready just in time. The battle for Micro had begun. This was a long conflict, so we'll just look at Starscream's squad's perspective. Throughout the Micro conflict, they would be sent on missions behind Autobot lines. This is where they'd run into an Autobot squad led by Jetfire. They would run into this squad a few times, till a rivalry formed between the two groups. They went blow for a while, Starscream's group destroying an Autobot supply convoy, Jetfire's squad liberating a Decepticon POW camp. They were evenly matched. But later in the war, Starscream's squad would be reassigned to work directly under Megatron. And shortly after, the Megatron from the first war seemingly returned, This seemed like a good thing. Hard to explain, but good. He was Megatron's namesake, a hero of legend, but little did they know, this was just a ploy created by one of Unicron's minions. Sideways. This would lead to the War of the Primes. And to see a more in-depth look at that conflict, check out my video on Nemesis Prime. For a short rundown, Sideways implanted new sparks in the long-dead bodies of the first Optimus and Megatron, sending them back to their respective factions to take over and spark a great war. But these new creations, Nemesis Prime and Megatron X, went off script, forming their own faction, and causing the Autobots and Decepticons to have to unite against them. Despite their dislike for each other, Optimus and Megatron were able to put their differences aside and make a temporary peace. The War of the Primes was a relatively short-lived conflict compared to others in Cybertronian history, but for its length, it was extremely deadly. A Demolisher and Cyclonus power links, along with Thrust, would be killed. Thrust was actually killed by his power link, who then became the new second in command of Starscream's group. Later, Starscream and Hotshot, a member of Jetfire's squad, would be captured and placed in a prison camp. This camp was run by one of Shockwave's many clones who had joined up with Nemesis. This prison camp was closer to an execution line, really, with bots being used in experiments and usually killed during them. Starscream got off pretty lucky. He was sent to an Energon trial to have new synthetic Energon tested on him. This would lead to him going offline for long periods of time, but in this camp, that was more of a mercy. Hotshot, on the other hand, was sent to the Rust trials. Cosmic rust was like a seasonal disease for Cybertronians, similar to the flu for humans. You'd be down for a month or two, and then you'd be fine soon after. Shockwave was trying to increase its, as he put it, effectiveness. Hotshot would be one of these later subjects, having his lower half exposed and losing a leg to the rust before it went dormant, and soon after, he lost an arm to another trial. But luckily for him, the camp was liberated just before the next trial would begin, in which the rust would have been directly exposed to a spark. Nemesis and Megatron X would die, seemingly due to infighting in their own faction. But this was far from the end of this conflict. There were still many small groups claiming to be Nemesis' rightful successor. It would take years for all of these splinter groups to be dealt with, leading to the Autobots and Decepticons having another long period of peace. But as it always goes, that long peace would eventually be broken, but that's a story for another day. Like every Cybertronian, all of these guys appeared on Siege World, along with their Power Links clones. So far, we've only seen Broadside, one of the Minicons, and Spotlight Scourge, but I do have plans for some other of these guys to appear in future Spotlights or full episodes. For the ranking process, some of these guys were pretty different to the Armada versions. I always try and keep my Megatrons out of the evil for evil's sakes category. I feel like far too many of them just end up being that, so I try to avoid it whenever I can. I've also been trying to avoid Megatron turning into Galvatron as much as I can, so I thought him being Megatron's brother worked out pretty well here, as so far none of my Galvatrons have actually been connected to Megatron. Starscream keeps a lot of the base stuff from Armada, especially with him not being an evil schemer. I can see him as a pretty good protagonist in the future Spotlight, but I've not got much planned for that yet. If I end up exploring that idea more, it will be pretty far down the line. I have a lot of stuff I'm working on, and it does take a while to even just get a script together. Demolisher and Cyclonus stick pretty close to the Armada versions, and Armada they were pretty much just Megatron's go-to goons. Here made them a little less bad. This conflict's not really a good or evil kind of thing, so I'm trying to keep everybody pretty morally grey. I've been wanting to use some more IDW terms for a while, and I thought that they were the perfect two to use for it, with Almaka and Dura. In IDW, that term pretty much just means like a long-term best friend. It's like the platonic version of Conjux and Dura. I felt that fit those two really well. As much as I like pulling an IDW and making random duels gay, these guys never really gave me that. They're definitely more of a best friend deal. Thrust, just like the Armada version, is a schemer. I leaned into that a lot more here. He's definitely the stereotypical Starscream of the group, and I love the little payoff of him being killed and usurped by his own clone. Tidal Wave was a lot of fun. When I make models, I like to have them transform. So I held off on Tidal Wave for quite a while, I just didn't really know how to make them work. Originally I was planning on making a Titan's Return version, till I thought of making the Dark Fleet a combiner team. But I didn't really want to just have Tidal Wave be another combiner, so I took an idea from RID-15 Chop Shop, having him be more like a big guy that can split into a bunch of smaller guys. I'm also very happy with how he gained that ability with his brain being destroyed and salvaged and put in new bodies. That's always something I feel like could probably happen with a Titan, but I've never seen it done anywhere. Wheeljack didn't get too much here. I do like him splitting from the Autobots over fear for the Minicons rather than his conflict with Hotshot and Armada. He's the one I have the most ideas for, I think, for a spotlight. That might be the next major script I work on. Not to say that's the next video, I have probably about 10 scripts that I'm actively working on, so he'll be pretty far down the line, but I do plan on doing something with him. The Minicons stick pretty close to the Armada versions. I go a lot more into them in my Armada Autobots video, but for the ones in here, I'm not really sure who the land military and night attack teams are normally grouped with, but they just strike me as a con group. If I remember right, Demolishor uses one of them as an alternative for his minicon in some Armada media, but I'll have to double check that. Moving on to models, a lot of these guys are a lot newer, and the older ones I think hold up really well. The only ones I'm wanting to update soon would be Wheeljack. Originally I made him off my Sideswipe model. If I remember right, I actually put him out along with that Sideswipe. And I don't really think that model holds up well. I plan on updating Sideswipe soon, along with all of his recolors, and I'll get around to doing an Armada Wheeljack whenever I update Sideswipe. For weapons, Cyclonus has his arm cannons, and they also work in vehicle mode. Crumple Zone has his cannon, and it works in vehicle mode. Starscream's thruster can come out to form a cannon. Demolishor has his visor and his finger guns, along with his large cannon in alt mode. Blackout has his cannons, and they work in alt mode. Inferno has his missile, and it also works in alt mode. Wheeljack has his swords. Gunship is covered in cannons, and they work in alt mode. Tidal Wave has those same cannons. Fletch and Wreckage have their arm cannons that also work in alt mode. Knockout, along with Broadside, have their missile, and that also works in alt mode. Bone Crusher, along with Scatter, have their arm cannon, and it works in alt mode. Megatron has his cannon, and the second one on his shoulder. His cannon works in alt mode. He has a missile pod, and his second cannon can come out. His head claw articulates, and these panels here can open. Finally, Leader 1 has his cannons in alt mode. Moving on to transformations, starting with Cyclonus. Laying flat, head in, cockpit out, arms in, legs up, tail out, unfold the rotor, and bring the weapons down, and we have Cyclonus in his helicopter mode. Next, Crumple Zone, laying flat, arms down, legs up, head up. Finally, bring the cannons into place, and we have Crumple Zone in his tank mode. Next, Starscream, laying flat, head in, cockpit out, arms in, legs up, wing back, bring the engines into place, and we have Starscream in his jet mode. Next, Swindle, laying flat, arms in, legs up, wheels into place, faceplate up, extend the spoiler, and we have Swindle in his F1 car mode. Next, Demolishor, head in, arms up, legs up, slide them back, and we have Demolishor in his AA tank mode. Next, Blackout, laying flat, head in, arms up, legs up. Finally, bring the radar back, and we have Blackout in his APC mode. Next, Thrust, laying flat, head in, cockpit out, arms in, legs up, wings into place, and we have Thrust in his jet mode. Next, Inferno, laying flat, head in, arms up, legs up, cab out, missile up. Finally, bring the wheels down, and we have Inferno in his missile truck mode. Next, Wheeljack, laying flat, head in, hood out, arms in, legs up, wheels into place, and we have Wheeljack in his car mode. Next, Windshear, lay them flat, head in, cockpit out, arms into place, legs up, wing back, and we have Windshear and their stealth jet mode. Next, Megatron, lay him flat, arms into place, legs up, treads out, turn the cannon around, claws up, bring out the extra weapons, and we have Megatron in his tank mode. Next, Leader 1, lay them flat, head in, arms in, cab down, legs up, cannons out, wheels down, and we have Leader 1 in their artillery mode. Next, Wreckage and his repaint Fletch, lay him flat, head in, legs up, I'll bring the arms down so we can see this next step, driver's compartment out, and cannon up, and we have Wreckage in his tank mode. Next, Knockout and his repaint broadside, lay him flat, head in, arms in, legs up, missile back, driver's compartment out, wheels down, and we have Knockout in his APC mode. Next, Bone Crusher and his repaint Scatter, lay him flat, legs up, cannon into place, back arm in, wheels into place, head into place, and we have Bone Crusher in his AA truck mode. Next, Gunship, lay him flat, head in, arms into place, legs up, cockpit out, and we have the Dark Fleet Gunship. Next, Aircraft Carrier, lay him flat, head in, arms up, spread you out, legs up, and we have the Dark Fleet Aircraft Carrier. Next, Transport, lay him flat, head in, arms up, legs up, unfold the hydrofoil, and we have the Dark Fleet Transport. Next, Tidal Wave, lay him flat, head in, arms into place, spread you out, legs up, shift him back, cannons up, bring the weapon control room into place, second set of cannons out, hydrofoil out, and we have Tidal Wave in its destroyer mode. Finally, Ramjet, lay him flat, head in, arms into place, cockpit down, unfold the front wing, legs up, and we have Ramjet in his jet mode. And that's everyone. God, this was a long one, but we managed to get it done. I hope you guys will forgive an easier week next week. With 2 big Armada videos and a spotlight, I'm needing a little bit of an easy week. For new models, my GoBot pack went up recently, so check that out if you haven't already. My new Energon pack should be going up soon. It might be out today when this goes up, but if it's not, it'll just be a couple of days. Right now I'm also working on a new Universe pack. That is around halfway done. A lot of it's just repaints and more spy changers. I don't know how we feel about them, but I want to do every character, and a big part of Universe is a lot of spy changers. So I'm doing them, they're all pretty cool and unique. It's cool having stuff like X-Bron into a hoist, I never knew that was a thing, or a really cool looking version of Jazz. So that'll be up soon, I hope you guys will like some more spy changers. For videos, I'm not sure when it's happening, so I don't want to go too much into it, but I will be appearing on someone else's channel for once, so you guys just cannot escape me. I'll post some more stuff about that whenever it goes up, but that might be a little ways away. Sunday and Wednesday should be some more rants, one looking at another toy line, and the other, I'm not sure it'll be done on time, it might be something else, so don't hold me to this, but I have been looking at making designs for Transformers gimmicks that never got combiner teams. Stuff like Target Masters and Pretenders got combiner teams, but we never saw something like a Headmaster combiner. So I'm going to be working on some designs for those, and also some lore for the characters. Finally, next Friday, we're going to be swinging back around for a bit of a smaller one, but still a pretty big video, the Beast Machines Maximals.